Okay, this is the second part of 4.3 trigonometric functions on the unit circle. We are covering the first objective this time. In the last one, I covered trigonometric functions using the unit circle. Unit circle was a circle centered at the origin with a radius of 1. Now we're talking about any angle, not just those angles that are on the unit circle. So the difference is we're basically going to think about a circle centered at the origin with a radius of r. It can be any radius. And that equation is x squared plus y squared equals r squared. Last time we had was equal to 1. Now it's equal to r squared because I can have any radius, any size circle. Okay, and how we know that we have a different size circle is that they're going to give us a point on that circle. Okay, it'll be any angle. Okay, and when we have any angle, okay, that means that we're going to know a point x, y on the circle. So that's going to be the difference. Now, if you look over here at this diagram, okay, they're just drawing, they're giving you a point down here, a point x, y, okay, and so they're drawing the angle. The whole angle would be from the positive x-axis all the way to that terminal side. But if you think about the fact that the angle theta is the acute angle made with the x-axis, you draw a triangle, okay, then how do you get to that point? You go left x units and you go down y units. Left and right don't really matter. It's just x units in a horizontal motion, y units in a vertical motion. Okay, and so when you look at that, then you can find this side, r, using that equation, x squared plus y squared equals r squared, because you can see that's your Pythagorean theorem, and r would be that circle where this point goes through, and so it has whatever radius you want to make it be. So if you think about this picture, okay, and we've got x squared plus y squared equals r squared, which means r equals the square root of x squared plus y squared, never equals 0. Then the sine of the angle, so remember that I also talked about this angle right here is your theta, is your new theta, if you want to think about it, because that is the acute angle made with the x-axis. So when we find all these trig functions, we're basically talking about that angle right there. Okay, so what is the sine of the angle? Well, it's opposite over hypotenuse, which is y over r. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, which is x over r. Tangent is opposite over adjacent, which is y over x. But of course, x can't be 0 because we can't divide by 0. Then when you go to cosecant, you just flip it. Y over r, now it's going to be r over y, where y is not 0. Secant is going to be r over x, where x is not 0. And cotangent is going to be x over y, where y is not 0. Okay? It is the same thing, y'all, that we did with the unit circle. The only difference was that r was 1 before. So you always know if you go through a point, okay, those numbers are bigger than 1. I'm clearly not on the unit circle. Remember our unit circle, all of those numbers, all those points on the unit circle were numbers less than 1. We had 0, 1 and 1, 0, but we never had a number bigger than that. So what you're going to do, the given point lies on the terminal side of an angle in theta in standard position. Find the values of the 6 trigonometric functions. Okay, so don't let that scare you. Basically, you've got a point, and if you think about where is that point, okay, or more importantly, this is x, right? That's your point x. That doesn't look like an x. That's x, and this is y. Okay, they're both positive, and so they're both positive. I know I'm in quadrant 1, and we just defined our radius as the square root of x squared plus y squared. So the radius is 5. And then you go through, the sine is y over r. So that's going to be 3 over 5. Cosine is x over r. Tangent is y over x. Okay? Cosecant, you're just going to flip. I mean, I have them across, but one of the things, if you ever forget, y'all, the trig function and its reciprocal do not start with the same letter. So the sine and the secant don't go together. It's the sine and the cosine and the secant. I said sine and cosine. Sine and cosecant, cosine and secant And then nobody has trouble remembering tangent and cotangent. All right, so I flip it, I get 5/3, flip it, 5/4, flip it, 4/3. And that's all my trig functions right there. Okay, look at 1b. They are both negative. If they're both negative, I am in this third quadrant. Okay, but I still have r is equal to the square root of x squared plus y squared. And I'm going to tell you over and over again, okay, when you square it, you don't have to put the negative in there, okay? If you do on your calculator, you've got to put parentheses around it or you will get it wrong. So I encourage my people when you square it to not put the negatives. And that's going to give me r is the square root of 5. Now, when you come down here and do sine, sine is y over r. So that means I'm going to have, so it's -1 over the square root of 5. You have to rationalize it. But y'all, if you put it into class calc just like that, it will do it for you. So you don't have to do the rationalizing, and you'll get negative square root of 5 over the 5. Cosine, -2 over square root of 5. Rationalized becomes -2 square roots of 5 over 5. Tangent is y over x, which is -1 over -2, which is 1/2. And then I'm going to flip it. And this is why I write it over here at first, because this one, you don't want to flip this guy. This is much easier to flip, because if you flip that, it just becomes square root of 5 over 1, or negative square root of 5. Flip the next one, negative square root of 5 over 2, and of course 1/2 flipped is 2. So those are our answers. Okay, now these tend to be a little more challenging. You just got to think a little bit. Okay, again, we're finding the exact values, so you can't give me any decimals if you round anything, okay? But let's start. So they tell us that the secant of theta is the square root of 3. There's a lot of information in that right there, okay? So first off, go away. I don't know if y'all can see that. I hope not. First off, if the secant is, I'm going to start off with the sine. So I'm going to say the secant is 1 over the cosine. And so if the secant is positive, then I know the cosine is positive. Okay? And if the cosine is positive, I'm going to come over here and I'm going to think, okay, where is the cosine positive? And the cosine is positive in the first quadrant and the fourth quadrant. And then they tell me the tangent is negative. And the tangent, that's where the signs are different. And the signs are different in the second quadrant and the fourth quadrant. So the fact that they told me this and this tells me that my angle theta is in the fourth quadrant. And the signs are positive, negative in the fourth quadrant. Okay? So what that's going to tell me is every time I have anything that deals with the y is going to be negative. Okay? Sine deals with the y. Go away. Sine deals with the y. Cosecant. And then they're different, so that means tangent and cotangent are also going to be negative. Okay? So that's an important part of the problem. The other part is actually going and getting the value. Okay? And so what you have to remember is secant is 1 over the cosine. Cosine is x over r, so you flip it to get the secant, which is going to be r over x. So think about the square root of 3 being over 1. And I'm going to use my x squared plus y squared equals r squared. So that is my x squared plus y squared equals r squared. And when you simplify that, you find out that y squared equals 3 minus 1, which is 2. And y equals plus or minus 2. But that's why we had to do this stuff with the signs, all of this right here. Which one do I take? The positive or the negative? Well, we just said y is negative because we're in the fourth quadrant. So that's why all of my signs are going to be negative. And now I'm ready to do it. So y is going to be the square root of 2, or technically the negative square root of 2. And r, we already know, is the square root of 3. So this is negative square root of 2 over square root of 3. Put it into class calc if you don't want to do it by hand. That gives you square root of 6, negative square root of 6 over 3. Okay, cosine is 1 over the square root of 3. Again, rationalized, gives me the square root of 3 over 3. Tangent is y over x, which is the negative square root of 2 over 1, which becomes the negative square root of 2. And then I'm going to flip it. So remember, I'm flipping this guy. And again, put it in your calculator just like that. Y'all, you put the fraction bar first, and then you put the radicals, and your calculator will simplify it for you. ClassCalc will simplify it for you. So that becomes the square root of 6 over 2. This becomes just the square root of 3, and this becomes the square root of 2 over 2. All right, let me look at one more of these kind, okay? So the sine of theta is 5 over 7. Cotangent of theta is greater than 0. So the order doesn't matter. If you want to go ahead and do the X, Y, R thing, or you can either one do the sines. I'm going to do the same way I did. If they tell me that the sine is 0, then I'm going to think to myself, okay, what quadrants is the sine 0? Well, the sine is 0 in the second quadrant or in the first quadrant because everything's positive in the first quadrant. Then they tell me that the cotangent is positive. Cotangent and tangent are positive when the sines are the same. So the sines are the same in the first quadrant and the third quadrant. So that means that my angle theta has to be in quadrant 1, where I have positive, positive. Okay? So now I'm going to go do my x squared plus y squared equals r squared. Sine is y over r. So my equation is going to be x squared plus 5 squared equals 7 squared. So x squared equals 24, and x equals plus or minus 2 square roots of 6. It's x, and x is positive because I'm in the first quadrant. So all of my answers are going to be positive. Yay. Don't have to worry about the negative signs. So the first one they gave me, the sine was 5/7, so the cosecant is 7/5. Cosine is 2 square roots of 6 over 7. Tangent is y over x, and y over x is going to be 5 over 2 square roots of 6, which you're going to rationalize and put in your calculator. And when I flip them, and your calculator will do it for you. So put it in here, y'all. When you find the original one or this one, put in 5 over 2 square roots of 6, and it will rationalize it for you. So you'll be good. All right, last 3 problems. It's the last section of problems. All right, using the periodic nature of circular functions. So periodic nature, we haven't talked a lot about it, but basically it means that the values repeat after each period, after a cycle, okay? So look at these problems. We have, again, we're trying to get the exact value. The sine of 13 pi over 4. We got to find the reference angle. Remember, I told you in radians on the unit circle, the reference angle is whatever your denominator is. So my reference angle is pi over 4. So I'm thinking, okay, well, what's the sine of pi over 4? So the sine of pi over 4 is the square root of 2 over 2. But now I have to know where 13 pi over 4 is to figure out whether it's positive or negative. So what you want to do, your calculator will do it for you again. 13 pi over 4. Think of 13 over 4. Ignore the pi for a second. Change that to a mixed number. Your calculator will do it. That's 3 1/4. So if you think of your circle, I will tell you that all the even numbered pi's are over here and all the odd ones are over there. Because we start at 0, and then that's pi, and then 2 pi, and then 3 pi, and 4 pi, and 5 pi. So it goes on and on. So 3 pi ends up over here with the odds, and then I go another 1/4. And when I go another 1/4, I'm right there. So I know that this tells me 13 pi over 4 is going to be down here in the third quadrant. And in the third quadrant, both signs are negative, and so the sign is going to be negative. And so the answer to the problem is negative square root of 2 over 2. All right, cosine of negative 4 pi over 3. Again, reference angle, pi over 3, the easy ones. Okay, so what is the cosine of pi over 3? Cosine of pi over 3 is 1/2. Where is negative 4 pi over 3? Okay, so positive 4 pi over 3, it's 1 more than, so it's down here. But because the negative is in front, it gets flipped over the x-axis. So it's really up there in quadrant 2. So my signs are negative, positive. And so my answer is going to be negative 1/2. Okay, last problem. Pay attention. Be careful. Whenever you look at this, I said when it's on the unit circle, but you always got to pay attention and see if you can reduce it. And 15 pi over 6 reduces to 5 pi over 2 when you divide the top and bottom by 3. So what is the reference angle for that? Pi over 2. And pi over 2, y'all, is we're trying to think about tangent of pi over 2. Pi over 2 is on the top and the bottom. And the tangent at the top of the bottom is, anybody know? Okay, up at the top, the coordinates are 0, 1. So if I do tangent, which is this way, 1 over 0 is undefined. So we are undefined, and that's all we have for trigonometric functions on the unit circle, but this was finding them of any angle. So short and sweet. Hope you enjoyed it. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to email us or come see us. Thank you so much, and y'all have a great day.